Hello, America. Hope you're doing well. Today, I'm going to talk about how to beat a gun charge in Massachusetts. It is presented to the American people on 6 May 2022. Don't try this at home. Bottom line up front, the license to carry is a contract, and it is a professional license. You must have a license to possess or carry firearms in Massachusetts, but there is no license to keep and bear arms. Let's look at the licensing statute, MGL 140-131. A license shall entitle a holder thereof to possess and carry firearms. There's a $100 fee that must be paid in consideration for that contract. You have to undergo a background check. You have to pass a basic firearm safety course. There must also be signatures of consent and acceptance of your application. Failure to obtain a license will result in punishment if you're carrying a firearm without a license. The license to carry is a contract, and we know this because it says so. The Department of Criminal Justice Information Systems may enter into contracts with any individual for providing or receiving services, and services include firearm services. The contract is for an entitlement. You have to pay for it for $100 in consideration. There are terms and conditions and signatures of consent and acceptance. Those are all elements of a contract, and the Supreme Court said, in general, a statute is itself treated as a contract when the language and circumstances evince a legislative intent to create private rights of a contractual nature enforceable against a state. Furthermore, our statute books are filled with acts authorizing the making of contracts with the government through its various officers and departments. So then, would you agree that the license to carry is a contract? Would you agree that the license to carry is for an entitlement? And would you agree that the license to carry is a making of contracts with the government through its various officers and departments for an entitlement? What published law shows that the license to carry is anything other than a contract with the government for an entitlement? What published law requires that you contract with the government for an entitlement in order to exercise your rights as secured under the Constitution? At this point, most of you smell a rat in the woodpile. But let's give the government the benefit of the doubt and continue reading. The purpose of licensing, as the purpose of government, is to furnish the people with the power of enjoying in safety and in tranquility their natural rights and the blessings of life, according to the Massachusetts Constitution. And the power of enjoying natural rights, for example, the natural right to cook, clean, and parent in your own household, those are all licensed and privileged activities under the statute. For example, meat and poultry processing, sterilization and sanitation of bedding and upholstered furniture, childcare. And if you don't have a license to process meat and poultry, you could spend up to 3 years in prison. If you don't have a license to sterilize bedding or upholstered furniture, you may spend up to 6 months in jail. And if you don't have a childcare license, you may spend up to 2.5 years in prison. But does the licensed entitlement of any profession impair the people in the enjoyment of our natural rights? Is there a license to cook, clean, or parent? You be the judge of that. Also, the blessings of life. Take, for example, a newborn and his mother. They see an obstetrician and a pediatrician, both of whom are licensed to doctor for a licensing fee, both of whom pass a background check, and both of them pass a basic medical safety course, also known as medical school. They sign an application and are licensed by the Board of Medicine, who also are in charge with prosecuting violations and any punishment of the license. So let me ask you this question. Does the licensed entitlement of doctors impair the blessings or rights of a woman to bear or to care or to keep her own baby? Of course not. That's ludicrous. So a license to carry is a professional license because it says it is. The Supreme Judicial Court ruled in Commonwealth v. Young that the unlicensed possession of a firearm is itself a regulatory crime. It is passive and victimless. Regulations are those that set forth standards for public health and safety, the licensing of professionals, consumer and environmental protection, and more. Regulations are created and enforced by the executive branch agencies. You see, licensing of professionals created and enforced by executive branch agencies. Let's look more at regulations. Mass General Laws 30A, Section 1, Paragraph 5 says regulations include regulations adopted by any agency, including in the case of the Department of Criminal Justice Information Systems, CMR 803. That's the Code of Massachusetts Regulations, 803, Section 2.0. And in that section, the query background check with fingerprinting is a mandatory and unavoidable step in the application for a license to carry. The purpose and scope for the purpose of evaluating applicants for employment, volunteer opportunities, or professional licensing. Professional licensing. That is what the license to carry is. It is a professional license. The purpose of the license, it is to furnish the people with the power and expertise of professionals so that they may enjoy in safety and tranquility their natural rights and the blessings of life. The requirement of a license to engage in a business specified in the statute are appropriate to protect the people in the enjoyment of their relative rights and privileges and to guard them against fraud and imposition. So said the Supreme Court. Look at this chart. You have your natural rights to cook, clean, and parent, the correlative licensed entitlements, meat processing, sterilization of furniture, and childcare, and the punishment for not having those licenses. It is exactly the same for the right to bear arms. The right to bear arms has a correlative licensed entitlement called carrying firearms, and it means to carry firearms for hire. And if you don't have a license, you can go to jail for over 18 months. That is the mandatory minimum sentence. But does the licensed entitlement to carry firearms impair the right of the people to keep and bear arms? Of course not. An entitlement is by definition something that is beyond a right. In this chart, we see a number of professions, including doctors, child care providers, dental hygienists, real estate brokers, public accountants, and safety and security officers. Those who are in the business of doctoring are required to have a medical license. Those who are in the business of safety and security must contract with the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security for a license to carry. All of those professions have defined subject matter under a certain regulation or statute. They all require training. They all require the payment of consideration for a fee. They all require consenting signatures and signatures of acceptance. And they all come with unlicensed penalties of jail. And they all have a correlative right which resides originally in the people and delegated by the people. So in short, the license to carry is a contract with the government for the professional entitlement to carry firearms for hire. And what does it mean to carry? Well, the word carry is not explicitly defined by the legislature. Its meaning must be inferred. So let's read the Constitution. Its context include for carrying into execution the foregoing powers of Congress, to carry out legal obligations, to carry out a law, to carry out the powers and duties of public offices, to carry out the new Constitution, and to carry out the will of the people. In the statute, the word carry is what is done by carriers, and carriers are in the business of transporting property for hire as a bus carrier, as a private carrier, a common carrier, a mail carrier, a public air carrier. Additionally, carry means the powers and duties of police officers to carry weapons, and what sheriffs, his deputies, and other similar officers may do in the performance of their duties, and also what private watchmen, guards, patrol agencies, or other employees, such as private investigators, do in the performance of their duties. Therefore, carry means to carry out the obligations, powers, or duties of the will of the people by the government, the transportation of persons and property for hire, the powers and duties of police officers, sheriffs, and deputies, and the performance of duties by private detectives, watchmen, guards, private patrolmen, or other persons to protect persons or property for hire or reward. See Mass General Laws 147, Section 22 and 29A. So obviously, you need a license to carry, but there is no such thing as a license to bear arms. There is no license to bear arms because an unconstitutional act is not law. It confers no rights, it imposes no duties, it affords no protection, it creates no office. It is in legal contemplation as inoperative as though it had never been passed. Whoops, You just got busted for unlicensed gun possession. What do you do now? How do you plead? Well, I suggest that you bear arms because law secures liberty without license. And stay tuned for further videos on this subject. Thank you very much.